Hi, I'm Matt from the St. John Astronomy Club. Welcome to Beginner Astrophotography. In this video, Photographing the Moon, club members Paul and Noah will guide you through how to get started capturing images of our nearest celestial neighbor, Luna, the Moon. The Moon is an ideal first target for astrophotography. It's large, bright, and easy to find, even in city skies with heavy light pollution. Since it goes through a full cycle of phases every 29 days, rising about an hour later each day, there's always something new to photograph, whether it's up at night or during the day. Paul and Noah will explain how the size of your lens, called the focal length, affects the types of shots you can take, from wide landscape scenes featuring the moon to detailed close-ups of craters and mountain ranges. To help you plan your lunar photography, the St. John Astronomy Club publishes a monthly moon calendar, available by email subscription, on our Facebook page, or at sjastronomy.ca. Whether you're using a DSLR, a small telescope, or just experimenting with your smartphone, this is a great place to begin. Fly us to the moon, Paul and Noah.
Okay, so this segment, what we're going to talk about is in astrophotography first of all, is sky brightness.
Yes.
And so there are different types of astrophotography you can take under city lights, and there's certain astrophotography you need to be in the deepest, darkest sky you can possibly be in, and that being deep sky astrophotography.
Yeah.
Okay, so, and the reason being is, with deep sky astrophotography, what we're going after and why we have to shoot these long exposures is we're trying to gather as much possible light as we can, because these targets are so dim.
Yeah.
So under big city lights, you're just not going to see them. There's also things you can do if you are an urban dweller, and anything to do with planets or the moon or the sun. Doesn't matter where you live, you can always take those images. So that's the nice thing about that. So we're going to talk about the moon. I think is one of the greatest things to start with. Now, you've already had some experience with the moon. Yep. What's been your experience so far?
So, I started out just taking photos of the moon with my phone, no telescope, no fancy camera, and I found if you could take photos just at sunrise or sunset, you can get some really nice photos just with your phone, because there's not much contrast between the sky and the moon, and looks pretty good. But I got a telescope, and from there I've started taking photos with my phone through my telescope, and you can just get so much more detail with it.
Absolutely, absolutely. Also, have you played around with the phases of the moon?
Yes, I have.
And what's your experience been there?
Well, I find that the non-full phases are the most interesting. You can see the crater depth a bit better. You can see Earthshine sometimes, which we can talk about, and it's not horribly bright when you're trying to take photos of it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, and that's actually a good point, and a good point because with our moon we have 29-day cycle with the moon. So every 29 days we can see the same thing over and over and over. So that's why it's a great thing to practice on. If you take the moon in its first phase, it's very thin crescent phase. That's actually something that a lot of people hunt to find, and they're quite happy when they get that, few hour old moon and they found it, because it's really something to do. And that's usually done following as the sun is setting. Just as the sun goes behind the horizon, that little thin crescent is there. And then what happens as the phases move on, as the moon starts to get larger and larger crescents, it goes into that quarter moon stage, the sun and the moon times or spaces actually start to separate.
Yeah.
Okay, so when we're seeing just after a new moon, we'll see that thin crescent. So that's the one you're going to get just at sunset.
Yeah.
Also, when you want to shoot both a beautiful sunset and a beautiful moonrise, if you do it at the true full moon, just as the sun is setting, the moon will be rising.
Ooh.
And here's where it's important to understand that if I'm going to use a full moon, and if I want a landscape in the full moon shot with one picture instead of doing a bunch, it's because as the sun is still going down, there's certain degrees of depth that it goes to before you lose the light on the ground.
Yeah.
So because you're actually filming at are shooting at sunset during a full moon,
Yeah.
as the moon is rising, there's still topography there that you
Yeah.
can capture all in one shot, and I've done it
Yeah.
a million times. And so that would be one thing to remember. So if
Yes.
you're, if people that are watching this are at St. Tress Beach, you can get the most amazing sunset and the most amazing moonrise. Just by taking the sunset, it was wonderful. I'm turning the other way now and getting the moonrise.
That
It's
sounds
just
awesome.
that fast.
Yeah.
So that's cool. And of course, all the different phases of the moon. And the reason that we want to do that, of course, is to study the moon
Yep.
and find out all the different phases. Because as each phase comes, you start to see different features that are on the moon, and you get them on the phase building up to first quarter, right up to full moon, and then as it starts to go into the waning mood, then you start to get even different features, and you're seeing them on a different light the other way. What that'll allow you to do as an astrophotographer is practice getting that finite slice of light with earth shine, as you
Yeah.
talked about, right? Because that's a balance. That's a really,
Yes.
sometimes it's a tricky thing to do, but if you get the right phase, you can do that.
Yeah.
So that's always fun to do. A first quarter moon is always very nice. But as you go through each phase, as it starts to progress, the moon gets brighter and brighter and brighter. And there's a great place for you to learn how to use your exposure correctly on your camera.
Yes.
And if you're using a telescope, you'll start to realize how fast that moon is actually traveling through the sky. So there are exposure values that you will but there are exposure values that you're going to have to know as each phase starts to go, and you'll be quite surprised. A lot of people shoot the moon at a slow shutter speed, too slow if you're using it in a telescope, because you will actually see movement and you'll
Yeah.
actually get blur.
Uh-huh.
So
I've had that myself a couple times.
there you
yeah.
go, right? So if I'm shooting the moon through a big telescope like that one behind you,
Yeah.
it'll travel. If I was looking at it through an eyepiece, it'll fly through my eyepiece.
Oh yeah.
Right? So I've got to be super fast to catch
Yep.
that, right? But if it's just a little thin sliver of it, well then it's a little bit different
Yeah.
story. So that's what you learn when you shoot the moon. You learn to expose at different light values. You'll start to learn about the phases of the moon. When's the best time to shoot the full moon?
Yep.
When's the best time to do the phases and that kind of stuff. So the moon is probably one of the best things to start with. And one other thing, if your camera has video, or if you have a little planetary camera, you'll shoot the moon with video
Okay.
rather than just single shots on a camera. Although single shots on the cameras that are made today, you can get some pretty
Yeah.
detailed things. But if you're shooting video, then what you're doing is you're taking virtually, you can do on some cameras 120 frames a second.
Oh my gosh.
120 frames
That's insane.
in a second. So then with those 120 frames, you're going to say, okay, I want to take the best 20% of those frames. So you put them in a little stacking software. You told it that you
Yep.
want 20%. It'll give you the best 20%. And because you're stacking all that information, and watch this when you do this yourselves. When you take a picture of the moon, you look at it, and all of a sudden the moon looks great, but there's a little spot up here that's blurry. And then I took another picture, and there's a little spot up here that's blurry. But when you shoot it and you stack all those images together, you're getting the best of no matter where it is on the moon, and everything, top to bottom, is completely sharp and more detail. So the more of those frames you can stack, the more detail you can bring out of the moon. So again, if you have video on your camera and you're pretty good with software, you can get that same. You can do that as well. So.
Do you have any software recommendations for stacking moon photos?
There is Auto Stacker.
Auto
Stacker. And yeah, Auto Stacker, that's
right.
what I use for that.
Yep.
And it's absolutely great. Once you've got your video, you throw it in there, and then you can just go ahead and process your moon pictures,
Yep.
or solar pictures,
Yeah.
or even planetary.
Okay.
All right.
That's awesome.
Okay, so I think one thing we need to talk about the moon is focal length. And it's so important. Because you need a certain amount of focal length to be able to get any kind of detail.
Yes,
as you
definitely.
probably found.
Yep.
So what did you find when you take a picture with your cell phone?
When I took a photo with my cell phone, it's very, very tiny, and you could just barely make out like a little bit of a dark spot in the middle.
Yeah.
And that's about it.
So it kind of looked like a dot in the sky.
Yeah, it almost looked like a star. It's so small.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So if you're ever imaging eclipses, especially, and you want that detail, you need a certain
Yes.
amount of focal length. So here, for example, is this lens here will go it'll go anywhere between 100 millimeters and 500 millimeters.
Yeah.
So if I'm shooting the moon, the minimum I'm going to use is 300 millimeters.
Okay.
Because at 300 millimeters, because that's a full frame camera. But even on your camera, which I'm assuming is a APS-C chip.
Yeah, it's APS-C.
Yeah. So even with that, actually yours is better for that because
Yeah.
you don't have as big a frame to film.
Yeah.
But 100 to 500 millimeters is what this lens is. But if I'm shooting the moon, a minimum of 300 millimeters. 300 millimeter minimum, and you'll be able to get some detail on the moon. Now, if you want to get into Craterville,
Yeah.
right, even at 500 millimeters, you're still not going to get a lot of major detail, okay? So if I want to go into Craterville, then I would have to go with something along the lines of this. So this here telescope is a Smith-Cassegrain design. That just means that there's lenses and mirrors in it. And it has a 2,000 millimeter native focal length.
That's a lot.
So 2,000 millimeters is extreme, right?
Yeah.
But if I've got the right size chip on my camera, I can pretty much fill that, maybe even more so with the moon. So because I've got 2,000 millimeters, I'm getting in so much more, so much closer. I've got to track much more accurately too. So, but the focal length on this will give me all that almost surface detail.
Yeah.
That's where you see all the craters getting inside, seeing all the layers of the craters, the mountain peaks and all that kind of stuff. That's what you'll need to be able to see that. The little camera lens will give you nice detail, say at a first quarter moon. So you get that, you know what the Terminator is on the moon? So the Terminator is the line between bright and dark.
Okay.
Where it goes from
Yeah.
bright, and then all of a sudden it falls off to darkness. That's called the Terminator. That particular line is what you need to focus on during all the phases of the moon, because that's the area that reveals a lot of the little features that we want.
Yep.
The lunar V, the lunar X, all of those kind of cool things. The lunar straight wall, the Apennine Mountains, that's that nice mountain range that's there. If you have a long focal length like this, that's where you'll be able to see those features.
Okay.
And they are so cool. When you're observing, those are the things that we actually look for. So when you're actually imaging, you'd have to have that focal length to be able to get that. And on the other side of you, there's a telescope right behind you. So this little telescope here would not be a good moon telescope. This is a good deep sky telescope. As big as it looks, as powerful as it looks, it doesn't have that much focal length to it. So again, that one would be good for eclipses, that sort of thing. The 300 to 500 millimeter range, it's absolutely wonderful for that kind of stuff. So the focal length is important. When you're doing the planets, Jupiter, Saturn, Venus, those are and Mars, those would be the main ones that you'll probably do. With all of those ones, you would have to have this focal length here to really be able to get any kind of detail at all. So 2,000 millimeters will do an absolutely wonderful job on those planets, and a fast frame rate camera.
Yes.
And that's how you want to capture those. So yeah, that's the moon.
Thank you, Paul and Noah, and thanks to you for watching our lesson on photographing the moon. We hope this video gave you the confidence to get out there and start capturing your own lunar images. Whether you're using a smartphone, a DSLR, or a telescope with a mounted phone or camera. Up next in the Beginner Astrophotography series, photographing star trails and photographing the Milky Way, plus more videos on gear, software, and image processing. If you found this helpful, be sure to like, subscribe, and check out our monthly moon calendar at sjastronomy.ca. Until next time, clear skies and happy shooting.